Next is updating an item from the cart. Now, what if after adding this item, we want to update it? Let's say we want to update the quantity and then we see an update of the price. Let me just refresh this quickly. Okay, so let's just an item to the cart. To do that, let's just do the same within the other. We will add this one. Let's add this item. Let's say add to cart. Item must be done to the cart. Let's refresh. It's added to the cart. So now what I want us to implement is this part. Now let's say we want, like, let's say 6 items. What I want to do is when I click update, it will update the price. So if I just refresh this, just a minute, for then I click update. You see it updates the items at the cart. Now we get the quantity to 4 and then the price it's 720. Yeah, I'm having a small error. It should be when I click update it refreshes, but I think this will work for now. So to do this, this is the way I implemented this functionality. So on our code, I will start with the view. The first thing is you create, we create where is it? We create an update view, just like the way we did on other views. So just say define update. Or before we deal with the view, maybe I should show you on the HTML part of it. Something I should insist on. Or even before you even do that, let's start with the view. So essentially, we just create a view update cart. Then we say product ID. We get the ID of this product, and we also get the quantity of this product because this is what we are updating. We update the quantity and then we return the total price. So we get the ID and then we also get the quantity. This variable product ID and product quantity for from the request parameters. These values we are passing them when the user attempts to update the quantity of a product in their cart. Then the next thing is we validate and update the quantity, like you can see here uh, on this part of it. We checking if the cart data object exists in the session and if both product ID and the product quantity are provided. Then we attempt to convert the product quantity to an integer. Then if the conversion fails, then we set it to a default of 1, like the way we have done it here. This try and accept this value error. If I pass it without this try and accept, if we get that error, then now if it's not, now if you don't have a default, we are going to get an error. That's why we are using this try and accept. Then we update the quantity of the specified product in the session cart data, like the way we did it here. I explained this previously on this cart data, this session. After we get the quantity, we want to update that on that cart session. Then the next thing I do is I recalculate the cart total. By this, initially I'm setting the cart total amount to 0. This is to store the total price of all the items in the cart. Then next thing is we use a for loop to iterate through the updated cart data to calculate the subtotal for each item and the total cart amount. Then we collect the updated cart item detail into cart items. We are collecting them to cart items like the way we did on the previous one. It's the same thing. Whatever we pass, we correct these items because this is what we are updating. And then after that, we render the updated cart data simply through a render to string. If we use render to string, then it means you're not going to create like a HTML over here with cart list, because remember when I said this cart list, it's we are going to use this that when we click update, it's just going to update automatically by getting that data and then updating it. And then now when we refresh our browser, we will see the updated amount. But essentially, it should just refresh on itself. But I don't know why it's not doing that. I'm going to look on that. Then when you're rendering to string, what you're rendering is the updated cut item into a HTML template, and this template, like I said, it's the cut list HTML, and then we are returning this JSON. We return a JSON response containing the rendered HTML to the and the total number of items in the cart. It's a simple start. Then after that, what we want to do is we want to create a JavaScript function that handle the user interaction for updating the cart item. So to do this, what I'm doing is, like I said before, first we create a document dot. It's called an event listener. No, first, we create an event listener. We say we attach an event listener to the element with a class update product. This class update product. This is what I wanted to insist on. When you go back to your HTML, here on your HTML on update, this update, you should have a class. On the class, make sure you have class update product, this update product, and also make sure to pass the data ID, data product. Data product is the item.id, the ID of this item, this one item. Make sure that it's passed. And this is coming from, if you're just watching this is coming from, let me show you. From here where we said for item in cart data, it's this one item. Then what we're getting is the ID of this item. Make sure that it's passed as a data product is equals to item dot ID, or else you get an error. If you get an error, please make sure you ask me on the comment. But the most important thing is this update product. Make sure that you have it. You have it on your update button. So then let's go back to our function. So essentially this function, it waits for a click event, which indicates that the user wants to update the quantity of a specified product. And then next, what you're doing is you are retrieving the product ID and the quantity. We have already defined the product ID and the quantity on the views. And also we're retrieving that product ID from that, like that ID I shown you from that HTML. And then we construct the class name for the quantity input field using the product ID here, and then we retrieve its value. Then we retrieve its value. This dot value, that value is equals to input class dot value, and then we write an Ajax function. Rather an Ajax, we pass an Ajax request. Now this one, like I said before, here we are sending a synchronous get request to the update cart. This update cart, we are going to define this endpoint with the product ID and the new quantity, this ID, the quantity we got and the quantity, and then we send a success callback. This success function, the goal is to update the HTML content of the cart list. Like the cart list we defined with the new cart data returned from the server. Also to update the cart item count display on the page, that is the cart item count. So for us to get the total cart items, and then I also added something extra for error handling. That is, we log any error message to the console if the Ajax request fails for any reason. So I hope that's clear. Then something else, remember to create a URL for update cart. To do this, just go to URLs. On URLs, make sure to create a URL update cart, or else you get an error on this. From here, make sure or else you get this error updating product. Make sure you create that URL to for this Ajax request, because you're going to send a synchronous get request to this URL update cart. I think that's it for this tutorial. If I may just recap, the thing is, make sure you have an update cart function. On this update cart function, we are getting the ID and the quantity. The reason why we're getting this ID is this ID represent everything on this one item, and then what we are interested in the most is the quantity, because that's what we're updating. for us to update all other fields. Then here we are checking if this card data object is in the session, and also the product ID and the product quantity, whether they're in this session. Then we are using the try and accept method. We are trying to get the product quantity, and also we are getting the product quantity in terms of an integer. If the quantity is not there, we set the default. We make sure that the default is it's always as one item, and then we check whether the product ID is in the session. Like I say, in this session is that cut. Then we store the session in cat data, and then we get the product quantity, and also we also set the cat data, the cat data object on the cat data. Then we initialize a cat total amount. We set it to 0. And also then we initialize a cart item with an empty list. This empty list, we are going to append these details once we click update to cart. Then here we get the price, and also we get the quantity for us to calculate the new subtotal after we update the product. That subtotal is equals to this cart total amount. It's quite easy. Then after that, we render to string. The updated quantity should be rendered to string to this HTML code catlist.html. Like I said, we need to create this a synchronized file. Every time we update that item to cart, it should just refresh automatically. I don't know why mine is not refreshing, but it should. Then also when you are rendering to string, we also want to send the cart item, no, the cart data, the total cart items, and the cart total amount. It's as simple as that. Then also remember to have on your JavaScript function, just create a function called update. Yeah, to update that item from the cart. We get the class of that on this field, like I said before. Where is it? Cart. This button, make sure you have that on this class update product. That's what we're getting from here. Where is it? That is what we are getting from here. We get that class update product. Then we let product ID, we rate product ID, we equate it to the data product. Data product, it's this data product from here. Data product item.id, this ID of this one item. And then we also let an input, that input class, we let it to the product quantity, the quantity that we have on the cart. Product quantity, we defined it area. Let me just show you. Product quantity is supposed to be here. This quantity, remember the way we passed product quantity on the class, it's this product quantity plus product ID. So the input class should be a combination of the product quantity and the product ID. And then we set that input value, this input to that value, to this value. Then we create an Ajax. This Ajax contains a URL to redirect. When we update the cart, we need that URL. It's essentially a response data type of as JSON. Then the data we want is the product ID, and then quantity, it's the value, this value. Remember, this value is a combination of the quantity and the product ID. Then data type, of course, it's JSON. Then we also send a success message, catlist.html response.data, and then also we want to count the items on that cart. If we have an error, we also want to show that we have an error, and that is error update. We have an error updating the cart. It's a simple start. Then also remember, like I said, also remember to have that URL. From here, add the URL, update cart, the one we defined on function, this /update cart. the one we define on that function. Also something else finally, the same way of if you had it added on this cart, on this part whereby we are updating the item, if you hadn't added this update product, make sure that it's updated on cat.html and also on asynchronous, this cat.html. Make sure that it's also updated, it's the same thing. Like I said, everything on this code should be the same as this code. That's what I said initially. Every time we refresh, it should also refresh on the cat list. Yeah, so that's it. So next we are going to deal with this delete. If we click recreate now, if I click delete, you see it deletes the item from the carts. That's what we're going to deal with next. Even the updates, it should have done the same. When I clicked update, should just update this price, but I'm going to look at that. So yeah, next we do on delete that item from the cart, and then we can deal with other things, maybe something like a search functionality. We'll see what will happen. So thank you.